Do you also put so much emphasis and focus on finding new clients, as most of us do? Are you at a point or feeling like you're getting to a point of, I cannot anymore? The harder you work, the less you achieve. Do you feel like that? Then today's episode will bring relief, new ideas, and possibly a total transformation of your business.
This is Propulsion, the podcast for forward-thinking and driven and ambitious financial planning professionals. It is the catalyst to the exponential growth of your financial planning practice, your business, or your franchise. This is where professionals come in order to learn about the latest technology, to learn about best practice when it comes to running and managing their business, as well as marketing, sales, relationship building, the best and most valuable interviews with local and international guests, and a whole host of other things. Without any further ado, here is your host, Francois de Toy.
Gustav, a warm welcome to Propulsion Live.
Thank you, Francois. Good morning to you.
Fantastic. Is the sun up already there down in Cape Town? Hopefully, because it's coming up later and later here in Joburg. So, is the sun out?
Not yet, but definitely feeling the change of seasons. It's quite chilly and windy already, and it's definitely we're moving into autumn. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think the most beautiful autumns happened down in Cape Town. I was seeing that the change in the leaves colors when we were there last week. It's just it's another look and feel. Like it's a different brown and a different orange. It feels to be like maybe it's because the air is so clear there. But anyway, let's not get into the weather. It sounds like I'm chatting to my father-in-law. So he always loves to talk to me about the weather. But yeah, warm welcome, Gustav. Really excited to talk to you, and thank you for making the time. So I want to get into, because there's quite a few things that you're actively doing in your business. You're very purposeful in the way that you're building your business, the way that you employ technology into your business. Really excited to unpack all of this, as well as why you decided to also look at crypto. And we'll get into that, so people don't have to worry and think like this is about making money with crypto. I think it's something completely different, gathering from what it is on your website and some conversations. So really excited to get into that. So those are the three main things we're going to talk about. But Gustav, I mean, there's nobody better to sort of just give a brief background on who you are and what you do on a daily basis than yourself. So, who's Gustav and what do you spend most of your time on at the moment?
Yeah, no, thank you, Francois. So, a very brief history of myself. Went to Stellenbosch University, studied initially BCom Computer Science. So that's why I've got such a big love and passion for programming and computers and technology. But very early on realized that I don't want to spend the rest of my life just coding. So I then pivoted into the financial analysis aspect thereof. Completed my degree in BCom Financial Analysis and also the honors degree in Financial Analysis. Back then it was just called BCom Investments. That's where my love for investments kind of started. Then moved into a tire distribution force where I spent some 7 years kind of cutting my teeth a bit. Very early on also in my career there, I grew a habit or a love at least for practice management. So I was constantly curious and asking myself questions. So we've always been doing something a certain way, a process, but why aren't we doing it this way or that way? It's kind of built on that Japanese kind of culture of Kaizen, where you're just continually trying to improve. And that's where, again, technology plays such a very important part, because with technology, there's rapid enhancements and improvements that you can make to your process. Subsequently, after spending some time in the tire distribution force, I then went into the independent space where I started and founded the Financial Emporium, where we focus on holistic financial planning. The business is 10 years old, I'm happy to say, from next month. And we're growing in leaps and bounds. And this combination of all kind of my learnings that I've built up, so strong kind of computer and technology kind of focus, overlapping that with a very much a growth mindset, very systemized, embracing technology, but at the same time looking at holistic financial planning and obviously understanding on a very deep level in terms of what the client's needs and the requirements are. And if you bring that all together, you have this beautiful symphony. And although we're far from perfect, I honestly and firmly believe that we're definitely on the on the right road. There's still a lot of work to that we need to do, but it's I love what I do. I don't have a job. It's a passion, and we very much in an evolving and a changing landscape. But it's a hell of exciting. And as I said, we'll leave the crypto space for right at the end. But the things are moving at a rapid speed. And again, I think the big topic that I'm trying to push out to financial advisors: you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. The world and the landscape is shifting and moving, and you need to be very nimble and be able to adjust. So yeah, that's a kind of brief background of myself.
Yeah, and it's so important. I want to stand still just for a second, if I may. You started off in the tight space, so you started off with a product provider when you joined the profession, and you were there for 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm keen to sort of know, what was the main takeaway from that 7 years? What was the value that you extracted from those 7 years, and that you actually used as as a way to build your practice today? So to build financial the financial emporium. So what was the main thing there that sort of got you, and often there could be like, this is the way I want to do it, or this is the way I don't want to do it, or like, what was the biggest takeaway from that journey?
Yeah, so the biggest takeaway was, firstly, with not being too disrespectful to the big corporates, but I learned a lot what not to do. Unfortunately, South Africa and the financial services sector is still dominated by the big corporates that are the way that they've been operating for the last 50, sometimes even 100 years is very much ingrained in the business already. So I saw a lot of opportunities in terms of where the improvements are. One of the biggest takeaways was what not to do. But obviously, to their benefit, in terms of a deep understanding in terms of how the products work, was probably the biggest takeaway. So during that time there, I got a very deep understanding in terms of how the nuts and bolts of the products work, but the execution and the processes in terms of how to get to the client's kind of end result, that was a lot of where the kind of opportunities came to the fore.
And today, Gustav, I mean, if you think about if somebody is new and they're considering joining the profession, and what would be your advice today, looking back, because things have evolved, and just to sort of add on to your point, I think it doesn't matter really which corporate you're in. It doesn't have to be just in financial services. It can be anywhere in the economy. Often I think corporates are the exact sort of motivation that people needed in order to go and start their own thing. Because they learn about, like, I don't want to do it like this, or I don't like that. And I guess there's a reason why things work for the corporates, because it's been tested over time. And then sometimes we believe that things can be done a little bit differently, that might be a little bit better, it might not be. But if somebody was to start off today, what would be your advice? Where should they look to get into the profession?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. So unfortunately, and I think Nikki mentioned right in the beginning, the Inseta kind of the grants. According to my knowledge, there's not a lot of independent practices that take on kind of new recruits on a regular basis. So it's kind of difficult to kind of cut your teeth with the independent practice. Hence why, if you're coming into the industry, probably going to a corporate is the better starting point. So again, as I said, I honestly look back fondly to my years in the corporate / type distribution environment. I think you really learn a lot. And as I said, it's maybe a good kind of environment to get to network, to get to meet certain people, to build up your knowledge base, and then once you get to a certain critical point, to then make that shift and move. I would be hesitant to make a recommendation to anybody to say, start independent and just rock and roll. It's going to be a long, bumpy road. It's going to be painful. Not that you won't be able to succeed, but I think your learning curve in a corporate environment that's much more structured, policies, procedures, those things already kind of well ingrained and in place is a much better starting point, and then to pivot into something else if you see a different opportunity or a new opportunity that maybe is more aligned to your passions or needs or goals.
And coming with this background of investments, because you studied that and you sort of fell in love with that, Was that I mean, did that make you focus on building a investment book, on building investment clients into your business? Was that the main focus from the beginning, or did you also, like everybody else, start off with risk and then, as time went on, you migrated, or what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So obviously, it's I think most people, even if you ask clients, if you had a braai with friends and they ask you what you do and you say you sell insurance, everybody takes a step back, like, oh goodness, let's run for the hills. While if you stand at a braai and you say, no, you give investment advice, immediately they lean in and they say, oh, what's happening here? What do you think about this or that? So there's this stigma that insurance is bad or messy or not nice or dirty or grimy, or they just do it for the commission or whatever. And investments is like, oh, it's like almost a higher calling, although we all know that they're very much tied at the hip. So it's not a true reflection between the two. In the tied kind of distribution environment space, I think, to be brutally honest, the profit margins on the risk side or the insurance side is just more juicy than the investment side. So initially, everybody kind of leans more towards the risk and insurance side. I still believe that you need to be very competent in both. When it comes to things like estate planning, tax planning, it's very important. You need to have a strong understanding of both concepts. And it's not a kind of either or kind of scenario. I think holistic financial planning is definitely the way to go. The world is complex enough, and you can't just, although there is maybe a space for very specialization, I think it's important that you have a very good grasp of both kind of areas.
Because they are intertwined, right? So I think too often I've seen people focusing so much on investments that they neglect the estate planning portion of it. And those two are intricately, as you said, joined at the hip. And that's important. But if you look at Financial Emporium today, I mean, how long have you been going now?
Yeah, it's 10 years. So we're going to have a big Joel next month.
Awesome. Yes. Well, congratulations. So if you look at that 10-year journey, when you started off and where you are at the moment, what has been some of the most significant changes you've made that helped you scale the business and helped you grow the business to this point?
Yeah. So again, probably the single biggest one for me was that 10 years ago, when I initially started the business, we still used, as I said, at that stage, the Spotlight kind of CRM system. Later that year, when my other kind of director and partner joined, they were using a different CRM system at work. And my third partner that also joined at a later stage kind of rocked up there with boxes and boxes of files. And we sat around the table and said, guys, we're supposed to work together. I was to drive kind of investment side, the other partners, the long-term and then short-term insurance side. And how were we supposed to work together? And at that stage, I did a kind of a proper due diligence in terms of what options with regards to technology are available in the environment. And at that stage, nothing really kind of ticked all the boxes that I wanted. So I got the buy-in and the blessing from my partners to build our own internal system. So we've developed Babylon. It's called Babylon, and we've been developing it for the last kind of 10 years. It's a proprietary system. It's not available for anybody else. And because it's our own system, I literally on a weekly/monthly basis make small enhancements and adjustments to the software. And it's a framework, it's a foundation on which Financial Emporium provides a hell of a good springboard for us to rapidly scale going forward. So if I double, triple, 10x the team, I could easily do that. So it was a blessing in disguise. Looking back, the idea was never to build out the business to such a big scale 10 years ago. But now we're at a stage that we're kind of very much at a tipping point, and it's a very exciting time for us because, as I said, I think technology is such an important part in running a business that you need to kind of embrace it and bring it together. So by far the biggest kind of, it was honestly a bit of a fluke, was starting and building our own software instead of trying to take somebody else's software and try and fit it into our existing system. But it provides a lot of kind of learnings along the way. So that's probably been the biggest kind of aha moment. And the other one was just in terms of the team, so the people that you let into the business. So financial services and financial planning is still very much a kind of a people's business, people industry. So the right fit of the people that you bring into the business is of critical importance. So we only want A players on the team. We've dabbled in the B and the C league, and it never ends well. So yeah.
Yeah, no, you can't go to the World Cup with with your second line, right? So, Gustav, just quickly, I'm very interested to sort of, if you don't mind sharing this, but what were some of the things that were missing from the commercially available systems? What were the things that you felt like, because I'm a big proponent and a big, I don't know what the right word is, but I absolutely believe in that any system that you implement or any technology that you implement must fit your business. You mustn't go and change your business to fit the system, because that's looking for trouble. But for me, I mean, listening to you, like, you built this bespoke system because there were gaps in the other systems. And what were those gaps?
So probably the biggest thing that kind of stood out for me at that stage is that we obviously had a very strong focus on investments, long-term insurance, short-term insurance, and medical or healthcare. So all the four traditional big kind of product sets. And at that stage, there wasn't one software solution that kind of catered for all three. All four. There was a lot of kind of software solutions that were very much investment focused. On the long-term insurance, it was minimal. Short-term was hardly anything, and the same in terms of the healthcare. So because we had this big focus on holistic financial planning, we effectively wanted to be the center for the client's kind of total financial portfolio, and have the financial planners play the role of more kind of a relationship manager. Access to information and data across all the product sets was key. So at that stage, that was the biggest thing that was lacking. There was maybe solutions that focus specifically on one or maybe two of the subsets, but not all of them. And hence why we decided to kind of just build something from the ground up.
Yeah, no, it makes so much sense. And that's the big thing, right? So if you have multiple facets in your business, like, how do you bring all of it together? Because often you do like these different kind of product lines or different lines of advice with the same client. Mm-hmm. And how do you get this holistic view? And I think even the corporates are trying to get that one view of customer, which they absolutely are not successful in at this stage, as far as I know. So my other question then around having your bespoke software is, is it something that you'd advise for any kind of practice out there, or when should one, I think, go down that road? And do you need to have certain traits and characters, characteristics before you venture down that? Because I know of a lot of financial planners, and often I think what they do, and which I quite like about what you're saying, is that you built this, but it's proprietary. It's only for your use. You're not selling it to anybody else. Whereas there's so many financial planners going out, building a system for themselves, and it's so awesome for them that they then want to sell it to others. So what is your philosophy around that?
We've actually internally had various kind of conversations in making the software available to other advisors as well. So maybe first to answer your question whether I would recommend other people going on this journey. As I said, I think I did mention right in the beginning, but it was almost a fluke that we went on this journey. Unfortunately, software development is hell of expensive. So you need to be brutally honest with yourself that it's going to be a big CapEx investment from your side. You can't dabble. And even though there are kind of shortcuts evolving in the industry in terms of how to develop software, you need to be realistic that you need to know you're in for a big ticket item. Off the bat, it's not going to be a cheap exercise. The second thing is, as I said, we've been developing this for 10 years. So not just is it going to be costly, but it's going to be a lengthy time commitment from your side to develop it as well. So if you want to go on the journey, good luck. Just know what you're in for, because the worst thing that you want to do is kind of go halfway through the process and then want to pull the plug on it. We obviously see big corporates with a lot of budgets being able to throw around hundreds of millions of rands to develop a software, only to pull the plug when the key project leader leaves the company to go work at a rival company. When when you are a small or medium-sized business, you don't have that luxury. So just be very careful on have a robust internal discussion before going on that journey. As I said, internally we have been kind of playing around with the idea of potentially opening it up to other advisors. Again, we're not kind of keen on that just yet, but it might change in the future. I think the big thing, and again, this is why I'm so kind of passionate, not just on Babylon that we develop for Financial Emporium, but also for WealthPro. The fact that I'm in the industry, the fact that I work with clients on a daily basis, I think I have a very good insight in terms of how the solution should work. Where again, sometimes what we see is specifically out of the big product providers, they produce a software solution, but it's 9 out of 10 times it's developed by an actuary that sits inside the business that never deals or sits in front of a client, or a software development team that's situated in India or Australia that doesn't know the South African landscape and the demographics. And so I honestly believe that I'm in the ideal position in terms of to develop that software, and hence why it's working quite well for us.
Yeah, nice. So now I will get into WealthPro now in a second. Is there any commercially available software that you do use as part of your solution?
Yeah, very much so. So again, we'll kind of pivot to WealthPro in a bit. So WealthPro is the software that I've developed that is available to other financial advisors. So obviously we integrate with WealthPro. We still also use AssetMap as well. So AssetMap, that one-page kind of very graphical representation of a client's kind of life is very powerful. Clients just kind of relate quite well with it, specifically for clients that have a lot of stuff, if I can put it that way. So a lot of business interests, a lot of complex kind of planning that happens, and being able to distill that to a central kind of one-pager is very powerful. The other software provider, Astute, that we still use to a certain part with regard to the data aggregation. Unfortunately, Astute is very much tied into the legacy long-term insurance providers. So to have a consolidated or data aggregator in the long-term insurance space is important. And then there's minimal kind of off-the-shelf kind of products that you use sometimes for something specifically. So whether it's advanced cash flow analysis or those kind of things, there's other certain product providers that we use. But the bigger ones are our internal system, AssetMap, and then also Astute.
All right, awesome. And your from a revenue management?
And ComSpace as well. Obviously, I think it's if you don't use ComSpace, you're not even in the game. Sorry. Yeah. No, credit to Jan and the team.
Yeah. So that's to manage revenue and understand revenue and all of that.
Yeah. So I literally, it went live, if memory serves correct, yesterday or the day before that. So in our proprietary system, Babylon, that we've developed, there's a new module that I just went live. It's our metric section where we track a lot of metrics in the business. So it's more kind of on the business analysis, business intelligence side. So I'm very excited in terms of that. So that's where we're going to accurately track in terms of turnaround time, various metrics in terms of are we moving in the right direction. And the reason why I want to track those metrics and disclose that to everybody in the business is that so that everybody can see, although they're a small cog in a bigger machine, they can see the impact and the change that they bring to the business. So we've got a lot of data, and now I'm just going to distill that and kind of overlap a bit of BI on top of that to kind of show nice graphs in terms of are we moving in the right direction. Because again, there's various metrics, and sometimes we don't always stop and ask the question, are we on the right track? We just have like a gut feeling, yeah, business is good, no, business is not doing well. But it's just more gut feeling. There's no kind of actual information to back it up. And I think we're moving into a direction where data is going to be the new oil of the future. So the more data you have, the better you're able to kind of analyze and review and make adjustments and just adapt and change for the very fast changing environment we're operating in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Gustav, let's talk a little bit about WealthPro. What is WealthPro?
So WealthPro is a white label goal-based investment platform available to IFAs. So again, the starting point when we started WealthPro back 6 odd years ago, this was to kind of piggyback on this kind of big expansion we saw on the fintech side, where initially the idea was that clients would go direct. So it's a B2C or business to end client kind of value proposition. We tested it in the South African market and it failed dismally. Clients still need that kind of their financial advisor to hold their hand and to assist them in making a decision with regards to what investment goals they're trying to achieve. So what we've done is now we've pivoted and we've changed it now to a white label solution that's available to financial advisors. In a nutshell, the financial advisor and the client will sit and create various investment goals. And then after a discussion in terms of what type of goals there are, the client will then self-execute the investment. In the back end, the advisor will plug in their specific kind of model solutions, DFM if they use it, their own internal funds, or any kind of bespoke kind of solution that they have, and it will kick out the kind of the investment in the back end. So a big drive that we have at the moment is that we're pushing quite hard to have API integrations with the big platform providers. So at the moment, all the new investments are placed on the Allan Gray investment platform, but we're in discussions with a range of other platform providers, 91, Signia, and we'll continue on that list to also have an integration with them, which means that in theory that the client will go to WealthPro, press buttons, and you as the advisor will then decide whether the investment is placed on which platform and what portfolios will be plugged into that. So in short, the reason why we're doing that, we're just trying to piggyback on technology to try and alleviate some of the admin burden that we have at the moment. So at the moment, I think email is still the predominant method in terms of how information is communicated between the three parties. So it's the client, the advisor, and the product provider. And we just have PDFs that we're emailing up and down this channel. And again, what we're trying to do with WealthPro is to automate a lot of those communication channels. So the client presses certain buttons and the PDF is pre-populated and already completed. The data that comes from the product provider back comes in via data feed, so you don't have to log in somewhere to get the data. The data is already there. So data aggregation as an example. When a client kind of presses certain buttons on the it is a desktop version, but also a mobile application. If the client presses certain buttons on his phone, something happens in the background and we can send a servicing request directly to the platform. So we're using technology to kind of to tear down the walls, to simplify things. And as I said, the bigger focus, the vision that I have is that financial advisors, and it's very much what Louis mentioned now, our role is changing in the environment. It's more asking the soft questions. It's more about the relationships. It's more understanding the client's needs and requirements and wants better. And it's less about admin and it's less about completing documents and getting clients to sign documents and emailing up and down this channel. Yes, we might have a support staff at the moment that does most of that heavy lifting, but by using technology, we can make those small improvements. And the goal is obviously for the advisors to open up their diary so that they can build stronger relationships with their current clients and obviously develop and foster new relationships with clients. So WealthPro in a nutshell kind of incorporates all of those kind of aspects. One thing that I just specifically also wanted to mention, which is you mentioned it also earlier on in your video that you spoke about technology and all the elements in terms of or that you need to incorporate into a system. It's got to do with data. So at the moment, if you look at most of the product, or almost all of the product providers, whether your investment client has got 10,000 Rand in his investment or 10 million Rand in his investment, whether the client is 80 years old or 20 years old, whether the client has a risk profile that's very aggressive or super conservative, whether the client maybe has a behavioral kind of bias towards kind of overreacting when the market kind of changes in the short term. All of those kind of attributes makes clients very unique. However, the product providers, the statement that's sent out to the client is always the same. Most of them are kind of digital at the moment, so most of them Most of the clients get an email statement, and that quarterly statement looks exactly the same, even though the clients are vastly different. So in WealthPro, the fact that we have all of those data, so risk profile, behavioral biases, the clients, the generation, the age, the risk profile, the amount of investments, et cetera, what we're trying to do within WealthPro is we're going to focus on hyper-customization. So it means that in terms of that communication channel, the frequency, does the client want a quarterly statement, daily, weekly, only once per year? Does he want it via email, in the post, via WhatsApp? What channel does he want it? The fact that we have all of that data in WealthPro makes it that the communication channel that we're going to use and how we engage with the client going forward, we can hyper-customize. So I'm very excited in terms of expanding on that, because I honestly believe that we are all very unique creatures and we need to be treated differently. And again, if you have the data and you have the technology to drive that, the communication part of your system can be kind of ramped up quite a lot. And that's kind of some of the things that we're busy playing around with in the WealthPro space.
And it makes so much sense, because one of the things that you need to know is, like, how does the client want to be communicated with? And it's great to ask that question and to have that information, but to actually deliver and execute on that, I think, is the challenge. So this is amazing. And that hyper customization. And the other thing that I feel very strongly about is that if there's one email, one message, one whatever that a client is going to open, it's going to be the investment statement. So that opens up so many other opportunities. And the fact that one sends it when you said you were going to send it, the fact that you do it consistently builds so much trust and credibility as well over the long term. And I've seen this in practice. So being able to, as you mentioned, hyper customize this is just going to take it to the next level. So really excited to see what that looks like. Quickly, one question before I get to crypto, because like we're nearing the end now. So one of your aims, and something that you profess quite heavily, is that you seek to improve the business only by 1%. But the trick here is not just by 1%, it's about 1% across different or all facets of the business. So what does that mean for you in practice?
Yeah, well, it is exactly that. It's that you need to have and embrace a mindset where you're continually trying to improve across a range of facets. So again, it ties back into that what I mentioned earlier with regards to the metrics that we're tracking within Financial Emporium. There's a wide range of areas that we're tracking, from productivity, cost base, marketing, the client experience, reporting, communication. So it's important to have a good understanding in terms of how you're operating, and it's also very important that you ask feedback from clients. I think that's also something that a lot of advisors get wrong. They just assume, oh, the client wants this, oh, the client wants that. That's not true. You need to understand and ask the client on a regular basis with regards to feedback. So again, as I said, there's various facets in your business, and all that you need to do is you need to kind of be able to clearly define all of those facets, break it down into smaller subsets, and then just jump into one and look at what the process is at the moment and ask around and brainstorm in terms of how you can improve 1% on that specific process. So whether it's doing it cheaper, faster, better, more efficient, more in line with the client's needs or requirements, whatever it is, but just being hyper aware of continually improving across a wide range of assets. You can't just track assets under management. That's not a true reflection. It might just be market performance, but you might be bleeding clients on the back end. So there's a range of facets, and it's got to do with understanding your business better and then being able to track it and then monitor it to see, are you getting that 1% improvement?
Yeah, awesome. Right, so let's get into this topic of crypto, which could be an episode or 3 episodes on its own at least. But Gustav, quite interesting to get your take on crypto, and why did you decide as a business to start focusing on educating yourself and to be able to talk to clients about crypto?
Yeah, so my journey started personally back in 2017. Obviously, again, as I said, remember, I eat, sleep, and breathe investments. So obviously, by hook or crook, started to hear about this thing about crypto, got exposure to it, started to dabble around with it on my own, and I quickly kind of saw the value and the benefit thereof. Subsequently, the market is still kind of very volatile. So you have this bear and bull kind of phases in the market. In a bear phase, it kind of fades out into the background, and during a bull phase, where the numbers just goes up, there's a lot more attention to it. The reality is that it is in excess of a $2 trillion kind of market, and that number is not going to go down substantially. Just over the last month, we had a range of announcements. So firstly, it was Goldman Sachs, one of the big US banks, that said that they completed the first crypto transaction. Secondly, we have Bridgewater and Associates, Ray Dalio, the biggest hedge fund in the world, saying that they've got exposure. Ray Dalio mentioned that he's got Bitcoin exposure in his personal capacity. And then lastly, BlackRock, which has, I think, also about a $2 trillion assets under management, said that they're starting to employ people, a VP in the crypto space. The reality is coming, and it's coming fast. We know that obviously Investec Bank has been working quite hard in the background, and I've got it on the good authority that the Standard Bank Group is also playing around in the space. You can't ignore it anymore. So instead of waiting and then being late, I decided to be early. My entire life, I've been an early adopter across everything. I got the iPad, and I've got my VR goggles here in the background as well. I just like dabbling around and playing with stuff. And the reality is that I remember when I studied investments back in the early 2000s, we had 3 asset classes. It was equity, bonds, cash that was listed in our textbooks. Property only came out after kind of REITs started to became much more popular. I firmly believe that in 4 years, we'll have 5 asset classes: equity, property, crypto, bonds, and cash, and you'll combine and build the portfolio in that kind of space. So that's kind of the long and the short. As I said, I'm quite passionate about crypto. I think it's going to be a game changer. Obviously, it comes with a big risk for us as a financial advisor, because crypto by nature is decentralized. So you don't deal with the middleman. You don't go through. It's a DIY kind of approach. So we as financial advisors need to be very clever in terms of how do we position ourselves and not get kind of isolated in the process. And that's where in the wealth growth space as well, we've partnered with Revix. So advisors will be able to kind of assist their clients and get crypto exposure, but still be involved in the process. So we're definitely ahead of the curve there.
Yeah, and that's so important, because you would rather be. I guess it's a point of, because I was speaking to some people on Monday, and I was saying, like, you would rather be ready, or you have to be ready when the opportunity presents itself. I don't think the opportunity wants to come and then you go like, oh, what do I need? And then start scrambling, because then it's almost too late. And if the opportunity never comes, if this is, because a lot of people are feeling like crypto is a fad, like we all said about the internet back in the 90s, right? And just look what happened. And I think this new evolvement, I think it's about so much more than, Bitcoin, that's a store of value. It's this, it's that. You look at what Ethereum is doing, and it's about the utility and how this is going to influence our day-to-day lives in the future. It's not simply just about being able to buy something with it or to invest into it. It's about so much more that's coming. And it's, I guess, my question then becomes is like, do we really understand what that is? And the other interesting phenomenon around anything in life, because I think I haven't learned so much about how money works than when I started sort of studying up on Bitcoin specifically. I thought I knew, because I had economics 101, and I realized that I don't even understand why we have inflation. Now I understand, but all of these things are so important. So I think just from an education point of view, this is going to be extremely valuable in the bigger scheme of things as well. It's not only about the crypto stuff and what is arbitration and, buy and sell and speculate and, whatever. It's not even about that. This is about, do you have an understanding of the core fundamentals of the technology that underlies this? And the very interesting phenomenon for me, and this is the psychology of people, is that if somebody decides something has value, it has value. It's almost like, for me, I would gladly spend money on any of these. Let me just make the screen a bit bigger, or maybe do this. If you look at any of these things here at the back, I would spend money on those things because they're valuable to me. It means something to me. Another person would never in their life spend any kind of money buying little puppets and to put it on their shelf. It's like when you decide something has value, and it seems like in the crypto space that a lot of people are thinking that there's value, and there's more and more people that sort of see that as they learn more about it. And I think the danger in this is where we have people that are listening to their butchers and their hairdressers and so forth because they made some money in crypto. I think so for us as a financial planning profession, it's our duty to upskill ourselves on this. I think is critically important. Gustav,
I agree,
anything you want to add?
No, as I said, I think it boils back to education. I always, as my role as a financial advisor, I don't sell. I educate clients. So I tell them, I educate the client, and then the client has all the requirements and needs. Not all the requirements, all the information at hand to then make a informed decision. So I think there's a responsibility on us as a financial planner to kind of educate ourselves. And that if you're thinking that it's a fade and it's going to pass, unfortunately, that's not the case. There's just so much momentum and so much money behind it. It's not going to. So, just sharpen your tool. The other day, I kind of read a tweet that somebody said that literally just 10 minutes a day. So spend 10 minutes a day just educating yourself, just kind of understanding the technology, how it works, and why it's going to be a game changer, because it is going to be a game changer.
Great stuff. Gustav, thank you so much. Guys, if you want to get in or learn more about Wealth Pro, you can go to the website wealthpro.co.za or also financialemporium.co.za. I've got the links down in the description on the YouTube channel as well, so where you can find it easily. Gustav, just from the whole Propulsion Live community and the Propulsion community, thank you very much for your time and your phenomenal insights. I would really like to chat to you a bit more, but again, now I'm out of time, but we will make some time later on. But thank you very much for everything. I really appreciate it, and we wish you all the best of luck with everything that you're busy with.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good luck for all your endeavors as well.
Thank you very much. Cheers. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, with another phenomenal guest. Next week, we have Jeffrey, and Jeffrey is from LifeDocs, and we are going to look at how you can take away the pain, from an administration point of view when somebody passes away. And it's really going to be an interesting episode again. So thank you very much. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. And remember, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. We really appreciate it. We did reach our 1,000 subscriber mark, so thank you very much. And we continue to build. We've got some great aspirations for this channel. But thank you very much. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, be blessed, and prosper. Raise the bar. Remember, always raise the bar. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Remember to check out the live show, Propulsion Live, on YouTube every Friday at 7 a.m. South African time. You can find it at www.propulsion.co.za/live. That's propulsion.co.za/live. And please remember to subscribe, share with your colleagues, your friends, and anyone who may find value like you did in this podcast. Once again, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode.